hey there, guys.
And we are back making the laptop cooler. This time, as you might imagine from the title, we are making our NZXT fan here, which is most certainly not USB powered on its own, into a USB powered fan. And it's not too hard, you just need to know what to look for. So, like I said in the last one, this fan will run at 5 volts, which is the maximum output of voltage from USB 2.0 or USB 3.0 ports. So no matter where you're trying to get it from, it'll always deliver 5 volts. So that's an important consideration in choosing your fan. I would like to still keep this as an option to mount as a regular fan at some point. So I'm not going to be completely cannibalizing this. I'm going to be using the wire here, but I will not be chopping off the ends and putting on the wire that way. I'm instead going to do it a little bit differently. So since I want to keep this fan here, I'll go ahead and tilt you guys down so you get a better idea. Let's go ahead and move stuff out. Don't need plasti dip. Don't need these or this or pliers or our rubber or our felt feet. All we need now is electrical tape, fan, some wire cutters, and last but not least, I'm cannibalizing this from an old Zune player charger. If you don't know what Zune is, I don't blame you. Basically competed with the iPod at one point. Well, they tried. Failed terribly. But yeah, I'm cannibalizing an old Zune charger because it has a USB terminal here that will plug into any sort of USB port that I need. It is USB 2.0, but that doesn't matter. So what we're going to be doing is chopping off a length of it.
No, I'm dead.
I'll be a
I'm
little
so dead.
generous.
Why am I focusing on that cop? What?
I don't know. I'll be a little generous with my portion here. Just take the wire cutters and snip off that length. There it goes. This will no longer work to charge a Zune, but the Zune died anyway. You know how that is.
What's a Zoom?
A Zune, Z-U-N-E. It, like I said, a second ago, it used to try to be the competitor to the iPod, essentially.
Never heard of it.
Exactly. That's why I said tried.
Okay.
Let's try to strip this wire here.
Come on. Got it! I basically fell through the world and got a checkpoint. That lets me skip like half the chapter.
Got a few metal flakes in my mouth because of this wire. You'll see this is a very reinforced wire. It's got a... Oh, focus. That's right. It's got a ton of little strands on it. As you can see there, that's all just reinforcement. I don't think it actually carries any electricity over. It's just to protect the actual wires inside, which we're trying to get to. So, try to keep this in focus.
Wait, why am I going this direction? I'm stupid.
We're just going to peel back all this little structural stuff so that we get the sleeve here. And we're just going to peel that off. Now, most wires, I suspect, won't even have this little like rubber sort of sleeve or plastic sort of sleeve around the central wires, but we are going to want to get it just the 4 wires in this. Oh, this one has a 5th actually. No, that's a piece of cotton. That's a cotton string.
I'm just about dead. Oh, okay.
I was about to freak out there. So, what we're going to want to do is, you see these red and black wires, this black one here and this red one here? Those are the only important ones we're going to need. For now, we're just going to take our wire cutters and cut off the cotton reinforcement, the green wire, and the white wire there. Just snip them off. These wire cutters do require a lot of force because they're not shear. They're meant to sort of force their way through. So all you're left with, we might as well go ahead and clean up this cable at the same time.
Chris, I'm going to be Yellow McSwagger right now.
You do that.
Swag! Oh, wait. Where'd I grab? Chris?
Yes.
I think I just might have found a way to get past this chapter without, um,
Without.
that's interesting. I need to test this out. Forget about the speed run. I can grab onto a bar that you're not. Huh. It's like a little catwalk area, but it's not because you can't get on top of it. If I can get on top of that, I can just basically skip the rest of the chapter.
Wow. By the way, guys, when you're doing this delicate operation, you're going to want to be careful about all the little metal threads, essentially, all these little wires, structural reinforcement
Can't move
pieces,
left or right.
because those are going to get jammed in your skin and not be pleasant.
No, that's not what I
other
want.
side. You
I
can see we
save
still
myself.
just have these two small wires here, and we're going to actually want to use the wire stripper / cutter to strip the coating off the end of these wires.
You hear about Mirror's Edge 2, Chris?
I did not know.
They're actually having it in development.
Wow, that's good. I'm just going to carefully use the wire cutter end.
They're planning on making it open world,
Oh, that's good.
so you could just mess around, which will be so fun.
Okay, we're probably going to need our needle nose pliers, but as you can see, I stripped the end off of our black wire here, so that it's bare exposed wire. I just took the wire cutter here, applied a small amount of pressure, and wiggle up. You're just going to want to keep pulling on that until you have a clean tear in the wire. There we go. See, like that. Then you just simply pull it off.
Okay.
It did pull out a strand or two, but I don't think those are vital.
Let's try this.
So now we have two stripped ends. I made sure to leave a little bit of the color on them so that we know which ones they are still. And what we're going to do is take needle nose pliers, grab the wires at the end, and twist them around. Just keep twisting so that you get a small cluster, essentially, here at the end. And get those frayed ends all gathered together, because we do not want them to. Well, we want to make a solid contact with
So one of these ledges I grab onto. One of these ledges I vault over.
Interesting.
Like there's 3 bars you jump across regularly to get past level. And there's like this little pillar type thing, like structure above it to hold these bars in place. But I can grab onto between the first 2, the 1 and 2. I can grab onto this bar, but I can't grab onto the one between the 2nd and 3rd. I can only vault over it.
Okay, so as you now see, we have 2 wires. Still able to see which one is which. The red on you guys' left, the black on the right. And it has both of the ends exposed with a decent amount all clustered up into a single strand. Now, this is where our fan comes in. We're not actually going to be stripping the fan anyway, because like I said, I want to maintain this for use as an ordinary fan afterward, like if I ever need to. So you can see that one side of this fan, this one, has 2 little notches in it. Let me see if I can get this pointed. Yeah, you can see it has 2 small notches in it. And those 2 small notches are going to tell you which side you're going to be wanting to look at this from when you're going to be inserting these wires. There is another method you could use, and it's essentially the same. You just cut it and you do the same thing. You just got to keep track of the wires. But I'm not going to pay attention to this little LED plug here, because I'm not going to need it to light up, and it would be kind of gaudy. But with the key side up, so these 2 little notches facing up, these left 2 pins here are going to be your positive and negative. The far left is going to be the negative, and the one in the middle is your positive. The one on the far right is your ground, but there's no such pin or any sort of thing in the USB cable, so we are not able to take advantage of that. It doesn't matter because we're just going to be running that at a constant voltage, but just to let you know, it is there. I believe it's pronounced either tacho or taco, T-A-C-H-O. But yeah, so we're going to be inserting the black wire, which is always negative, into the left pin here. Oh, I almost did it backwards because I flipped it. We're going to stick the red wire in the middle and the black wire in the far left pin. And I'm just going to attempt to get these in solid contact with the wire inside of this pin. So once you get it in firm contact, you're going to want to take a small portion of electrical tape. Let's find, there it is, the seam from the last.
Oh my gosh, I can't get
piece.
this glitch.
You're just going to want to take a piece of this electrical tape and wrap it around the wire there, because you're going to want to make sure that the wire doesn't come out, lest you. I'm going to have to set that down carefully so that I can do this. Gosh, some solid electrical tape. Let's use our wire cutters to just make a seam for us.
Oh, that's funny.
There we go. Finally got it. Electrical tape, remember, is very, very tough. It's meant to be. It's meant to insulate and also generally keep things together as tape ordinarily would. So now that we've got the two pins in, we're going to use a bit of this electrical tape. Oh, dang. It came loose and the red bent. Okay, let's attempt this again now that we have our tape already in hand. So black goes in the far left and our positive red goes in the middle. Just sort of push that to make sure. And then take our piece of electrical tape and wrap it around a few times to make sure that it all stays together and doesn't come loose. Now, before we do anything, well, oh, this is going great. It's not sticking to the
Gravity is real.
thing here. Let's attempt
That's
this
awesome.
yet again.
I love that vine.
Hashtag Vine. No thanks. Alright, let's get these straightened out again.
I'll send you this death between episodes. That's funny.
Alright.
It's called
Sounds
Gravity
interesting.
Lessons with Nathan Drake.
Fun.
It's like 7 seconds.
Well, of course it's fine. Okay. Carefully insert the two wires. Retrieve our electrical tape. And firmly grasp it. Memes. And you're just going to want to sort of crimp that around the wire as well as the pin, or the 3-pin header. And we're going to run a short test on it. So, nearest USB port is on my computer over here. Get you guys some focus. We're just going to quickly test it by plugging it in. Oh, is it not making solid contact? Well, that's a definite no. It just slipped out of the sleeve. Dang. Well, let's make sure that we indeed have the correct pinout. This is a very troubleshooty kind of episode. I was not expecting this much trouble with trying to get the fan converted. We'll use a different piece of electrical tape this next time. It's losing its adhesive. Ooh. That's a no-no. Here, let me unplug this before anything happens. But the two ends of the wires are getting dangerously close.
I'll be
And you
back in
don't
a
want
couple.
them to
I have to use the
touch.
bathroom.
Okay, let's see about this. Roll them one last time, hopefully. I don't want to have to sacrifice this fan to become purely USB. That would be unfortunate. Okay. So, black in the far left. And red in the middle. Now let's one more time. Oh. Come on. Don't fray the ends. Sorry about all this. Did not intend for it to be this difficult. It's just working with a ton of tiny wires is giving me more trouble than I'm used to. Okay. Now carefully hold these so I'm not touching them, but they're touching the pins. Which red is most certainly not doing now. Come on, you wires. Fixing to crimp you together. But I'd rather not do that, because that runs the risk of damaging it. Oh dear. Neither of these wires is having any part in my project today. Okay. Now, carefully. Making sure not. Oh my gosh. Get the needle nose pliers again. Okay. Once again, we attempt to thread the needle We attempt to put a, what's the saying? Put a camel through the eye of a needle. This red one does not like it. I think it's because it's a slightly different length. Let me attempt to combine these wires and cut them a little bit shorter, so that they're both of equal length. This I'm not even going to have a part in cleaning up ordinarily. That's just going straight into the trash can, so that I don't get a ton of tiny little wire fragments everywhere. And now let's separate these two wires again, because we do not want them to touch, cause a short circuit in the fan and ruin it entirely. Alright, and back to the fan we go. Okay, I think I got it. Okay. USB cable, don't fail me now. Oh. Red, why? Why did you do that to me, red cable?
Typical.
This is very, very difficult, I've noticed. Working with these tiny wires presents a very large problem. Let's see if we can get them to bow away from each other. And now attempt the operation. Well, no such luck. Let me attempt to, first of all, get these these wires to lose all their charge, and then I will pause it here and do a tiny bit of research. I'm back finally. I did a little bit of tampering with it, not really, but I cut off some more of the wire. I can't really get too close to it, but I stripped more of the wire, and I attached it. I think I found what I need to do, because I noticed if I didn't keep the two wires, the insulation on them touching, while the two actual exposed ends were separate in their own little compartments, it would not turn on. I'll see if I can demonstrate here. So I'll keep them separate and insert them into the sockets here. There we go. And I'll try to keep them, the actual, well, if I could get them to stay in there, that would be better. Okay. Let's get them in there. Doesn't matter if they touch while we're not plugged in. But I was correct in the two pin slots that I was worried about. So I'll purposefully make sure that the two wires, like the two ends of the wires here, the insulated portions are not touching. And I'll go ahead and plug it in. Oh, wrong way. Keyed and all. Well, it's working. Well, I guess it just works. Oh, hold on. That's where it doesn't work. But if I connect the two with my fingers, like I'm touching the two pieces of insulation, it works. But now you see I'm not touching it. It's not working. Touch. And it starts speeding up. Stop touching. It slows down. So what we're going to need to do is probably use some of the little metal scraps and some electrical tape to make clear contact between the two individual wrapped wires, but still keep the ends separate. So, going to take some of these little scraps here, going to bundle them together, throw away the little extra pieces so they don't get lost everywhere. And I'm going to attempt to tape them on to the two wires there, because I believe these are conductive pieces. They just aren't naturally used to conduct. So we're just going to get you to see here. Just attach those to the wire there and sort of just wrap them around so that the two are touching, but obviously so that the two ends of the wire are still separate. We just want electrical contact between the two wires, essentially making a parallel circuit here. Go ahead and wrap that on tight. Get an extra piece here. It's going to look a little weird, but I want to make sure it does not come off. Probably should have brought some scissors for this electrical tape, because it is one tough cookie. Wire cutters. Make my crease for me. Really get that crease made. We obviously want it to essentially be a cut. That way we can just tear this piece off like that. But yeah, it's basically like plastic that you're tearing there. So we just want to wrap this around a couple of times. Get a snug fit, as snug as we can get it. Roll that on. And the two wires are still separate. So now we're going to go ahead and try to electrically tape them in. So match red to red, black to black. So in this case, red wire in center like I've been doing this whole time, and black to the far left. Make sure you don't get any stray strands of wire that would link over to the other one, such as I just had. If you get that, just twist it up at the end so that it's nice and clustered. And insert the two wires. Got a stray strand, those trying to touch the other wire there. Not good. But before we electrically tape these, let's go ahead and test. Oh gosh, hold on. Needle nose pliers, come to the rescue. Get these frayed ends away so that they do not touch. Let's go ahead and test this here once more. Backwards. And we have a functional fan. Decent amount of air coming out of it. See if I can maybe get a better idea. Yeah, decent amount. So let's go ahead and unpower this, just so we don't get any shorts or anything. We're going to use some electrical tape here. Going to try to bundle these ends together. Use a small little strip of electrical tape and tape off all but the necessary two ends here. So even more electrical tape. And I think I hear a paw now. Use these. Maybe even get the cart, yeah, cut started with them. And then we're going to need to cut it down the center because we don't need a very thick piece on each of these. So right about there. Right smack in the middle of this piece of electrical tape. I think if I ever need to use some more of this electrical tape, I'm definitely grabbing scissors. Okay, so that just about finished that off. Leave that on there and grab our USB cable back here. Tape off the non-necessary portion of the wire so that it leaves only the exposed end that will actually be inserted into the pin, or I guess as the pin, and try to wrap it around snug as a bug. Aw, dang. Don't know what's wrong with the adhesive on this, but it doesn't like adhering too much of anything. Also doesn't help that this isn't a particularly long wire. Or a thick one. Yeah, no, that's not going to adhere. So, what I'm thinking we're going to do is definitely keep these separate. Don't want them touching. We're going to insert one pin at a time. Oh, frayed ends. Get this nice and taut. Jeez, I think I did the other way. I was undoing it. Okay, that looks about good. Take our header wires in, and then we're going to bow them out from each other so that they absolutely are not going to touch, and we're going to tape them off this way. So I'll use a piece to reinforce between the two. Like I said, not a particularly strong adhesive on these, or on this electrical tape. Then we're just going to wrap it up. Yeah, I'm not liking this electrical tape's adhesive. It is definitely way too weak. In fact, I think I may need to use this crimper here. meant to crimp it, insulation. We're just going to use it to try to crimp that electrical tape. And before we finalize it anymore, do another test run. See, this is why you do test runs. It did not correctly work. It is simply too stubborn to do that. I think I'm going to cannibalize this fan. I'm not going to be able to use it in the future for actual computer uses, but I will be able to use it for this cooler. I don't imagine I'm going to be taking it off the cooler. It was just, I wanted to preferably keep it on there so that I could use it if I needed to. So we're just going to take all this electrical tape off for now. And we're going to go ahead and open up this 3-pin connector here.
What are you doing?
Making a fan cooler for my laptop.
Really?
Yeah. Alright. Donker?
You sure about that?
Yes. Alright. And I made a slightly diagonal cut here so that I could line it up with the pins again to make sure I get the correct pins. So it's going to be these left 2 wires. We don't need to worry about this rightmost wire. So we'll get him out of the way. And we're going to strip them as well. We're going to do a decent amount here so that we get basically just what we need. In fact, this might work in one of these. Not enough. Not enough. So now I will have to manually use the wire cutter to strip insulation. It is a very thin wire, dang. So brittle. We still have plenty of wire to go. This is why you don't cut it too short, is for things like this, where you need to be very careful and you don't want to lose more than you have to. Try to do a sort of cut around so we can weaken up the plastic coating. Remember, we're not trying to cut the wire, we're trying to cut the insulation on the wire. Well, that really stretched it, but it didn't quite take it off. But if I apply about the same pressure, I think it should tear. Yeah, okay. You can tell it's obviously very difficult to strip such a thin wire. It is not easy. Because, yeah, okay, got that one pretty quick. But the least bit of additional pressure could cut the wire. Okay, now what we're going to do, there's not many actual wires in here, but we're going to want to bundle them together as much as possible. So, just going to twist up these wires at the end like we did with the USB cable. Get them nice and twisted. I was hoping that would work a little bit better. But just twist it up a couple times so that you get a nice little bundle at the end. There we go, that looks about good. And so now, instead of taking each individual wire and connecting it to a pin, we're simply going to tie them around each other like so. We're just going to, let me get the webcam closer here. we're just going to take these wires, so black and black here, and tie them around each other. Just loop one around the other a bunch of times. And then once you have this sort of, here, twist it one or two more times. You're just going to want to twist this bundle as much as possible so that it's a tight-knit little, essentially thicker wire. So it's this little guy here. Bring in a little bit more. This guy right here, it's not in focus. This is what you want to do with both of them. So for the red, we're going to take our red cable here and pull it over and wrap around red a bunch of times, like so, until we get him coiled up as well. The tighter the better, because the tighter the connection at the end here, the more likely it is to work, generally. So once you got them sorted and around, you just want to twist it up even more until it feels like it's got a decent amount of tension on that connection there. And so now, put us back in focus. Let's plug in and see if it works now. And as you can see now, we do have a working fan. Our fan is spitting out a really good volume of air. I'd estimate probably 50 CFM, cubic feet per minute. And so now we're going to use the electrical tape to hopefully adhere these two ends. Like I said, I'm not trusting this adhesive at all. It's very weak. But it's what we have. And obviously, when we're binding these two together, we do not want to use we don't want to use it so that it puts both ends together, because that sort of defeat the purpose of winding them into separate pieces. We got a piece of electrical tape, split it down the center like we did with the other one. Okay, and there we go. It's about as centered as I could hope. And finish the tear. There we go. And simply wrap the electrical tape onto the ends of the wire if it adheres. Thankfully the wire has a bit more bulk to it, so I can actually sort of hang on to it while I'm wrapping, but we'll see if I end up needing to crimp I think I'm going to need to crimp this electrical tape on to make sure that it doesn't remove itself accidentally. So just take wire crimp, or insulation crimp I guess, and crimp it off at both ends. Just want to make sure that this does not come undone and make our hard work even harder. And crimp at the bottom as well. Make sure it's nice and secure. And then for precaution, crimp it in the middle. Now this crimping Shouldn't be too hard in terms of, you know, like how much force you're applying, because you do not want to A, cut through the tape, and B, you don't want to cut through the wire inside. So you just want to essentially use the wire crimp as a measure to make sure that it's extremely secure on there and that it won't come off easily. And now we're just going to do the same with our other little strip here of electrical tape. Apply that to our other wire here. And wrap it around and crimp. Make sure it's this, oh, yeah, see, you want to make sure it's snug on there, and that while you're doing it you don't accidentally slide it off like I just did. So you're going to want to keep a pinch on it at all times. And then do your preliminary crimp with your fingertips. Sort of just push really hard on the adhesive so that you get it to hopefully bond. And then secondarily use the wire crimps to crimp off both ends and in the middle to get that adhesive really stuck on there. Ooh, come on. You can tell I am not an electrician, by the way that all of this is going. If I were if I worked on wires ordinarily, you would be able to tell that I could do this competently. Basically the only thing I know in terms of electricity is red goes to red, black goes to black, black is negative, red is positive. I know what a series and parallel circuit, that's about it. If you ask me anything more advanced, I'm going to say, what? What are you talking about? Because I'm certainly not advanced in the field of electronics or electricity. Any of those sort of things I leave to someone else. This is the only exception. Just because it's a fun project. So now, oh, that's right, what came over here. Now we got our two crimped ends right there. And we're just going to want to keep these together. These guys are going to be the wire itself. And so we're just going to bundle up all of this fun stuff, including the little slack in the wire there, into a compact piece there, and we're going to use electrical tape to bind it all. Regular tape might be necessary for its adhesive properties. I hope you guys don't mind how long this is. By the way, I haven't been looking at chat just to make sure. Okay, nope, no one's there. But I hope you guys don't mind all the trial and error in this little mini series essentially. It's just that this is a new venture and I want to do it for cheap. And just as a precaution here, I'm folding both of the tabs in opposite directions just so that the wires do not touch as much as possible, because we don't want to open up this wire again later on to have to fix something like that. So wrap around as tightly as we can by hand. Really apply some pressure to it. Like really get in there and use a lot of force. You don't want to let this make itself useless You want to use the insulation crimp afterward to do the same thing we did on the internals. Make sure that they don't come apart. And maybe one crimp there. Crimp it at a 90°. And now we have a bulbous thing in the cord. It looks really ugly, but trust me, it'll work. Now, let's just make sure this cord does in fact still work. Oh, no. Why? Why, fan? Do you not love me? Oh, I got it to jolt there for a second. I think it was needing some contact between the two segments. Let me see if I can find the seam. Right there. It has like this slight pressure point that you can exploit, it seems. Well, it's running. You can see that much. And it, as I said, it puts out a good amount of air.
What you doing, little man?
Making a fan work with USB. Well, for some reason, I guess they were touching, but no longer. Don't want it to short. So let me unplug this just so there's no more electricity flowing into the system, and try to get these wires completely isolated from one another. Take those few little shreds out. Anything that could be potentially connecting the direct ends together, we want to remove. There we go. And plug it in to make sure. Got a spinning fan. Okay, so once more, I don't think we're going to bundle it all together into one cable. I think we're just going to get this little piece crimped off again and leave them be. Okay, crimp it together. To hopefully keep it protected. And slip this guy's sleeve on a little more if possible. Okay, and crimp him yet again. And once we get this, like I said, I'll probably just leave these ends exposed as is. I won't try to bundle them. But now we should have our USB fan tangled around. Operational. Yep. It's properly working. As it was a second ago, now just with insulation. But yeah, it puts out a decent amount of air. And I don't know if like I said, I don't want to bundle it together again because that's what caused it to continually short from what I can see. But I will see what I can do about, here we go. Yeah, okay. We'll see what we can do about maybe keeping these separate as much as possible. The only thing I could think is folding them on opposite ends of the wire and then using electrical tape in order to secure them on opposite sides so that absolutely no touching occurs. That might not be a bad idea. It'll end up with an even uglier cord, but it will make it a little bit prettier than it is at the moment. So let's go ahead and remove that piece of electrical tape that was previously going to be our cable thing here. Keep in mind also that this will make a fairly long cord in the end. It's probably a lot longer than you expected. And the reason we're using electrical tape as opposed to ordinary tape, by the way, I'm going to unplug this while I do this so I don't shock anything, but the reason we're using electrical tape as opposed to ordinary tape is so that we're absolutely sure that there's no electrical contact between anything on the two, like on the outside of that wire. So the insulation purposes of the electrical tape just makes it a little more useful. I'm going to go ahead and cut off the excess of the third cord from the USB or the 3-pin fan just because it's sort of in the way. Before I crimp it down, let's make sure that the two ends aren't touching underneath. Good, they are not. And now let's crimp it. Just so that we know we're not getting any sort of wire coming loose in there. We want to make sure that it remains intact and as is as much as possible. Okay. That looks terrible, but it seems to work. Let's plug it in once more. And the fan still works. So I think we're going to call this part good because we do have our fan working while it's plugged in. Once again, it's a terrible looking solution. Let me unplug it for you and show you guys. It's a terrible looking solution, but it is a working solution. I'll probably take some regular tape and just go around the outside of this just so that it's a little more tidy, let's say. But I guess until next time, guys, oh, bye there.